welcome to the Homeowner Connector, bringing you the best. I am so privileged today to have with me Daniel Cutrara. Did I say that right?
You did. Hey.
Oh, wow. Okay. He has a skill that many of us forget that we need and need to take advantage of. So he's going to tell us all about sharpening knives, kitchen knives, or do you sharpen other kind of
I
knives?
sharpen all kinds of knives, kitchen knives, pocket knives. I can sharpen lawnmower blades. That's pretty easy. I can sharpen it all.
Well, yeah, you're pretty sharp. Um, so the first question I want to ask all my guests is what is one myth that you'd like to bust about knife sharpening?
Uh, I think what I've encountered the most in kitchen knife sharpening is people seem to think that stainless steel knives can't be sharpened, like the really super steel knives that people buy from expensive stores and stuff. They
Hmm.
can absolutely be sharpened. They just take a little bit more care.
Well, there you go. Thank you for that. So you don't have to just go out and buy a new one. You can take it to Daniel and get it sharpened.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I know the next question is two either trivia details or fun facts or two job jargons. Like in real estate, we talk about FISBO, and a lot of people may not know that means
Hmm.
for sale by owner. But what are some uh, trivia facts or fun facts or job jargon?
Yes. So there are some words that people may or may not be familiar with. Sometimes people hear the word honing, uh, and what that means is actually something kind of specific. It involves taking a knife,
Hmm.
and whether you're sharpening it or not, you move the knife along in the direction that it would be cutting. So if I'm using a knife stone, like this diamond stone right here, and I'm trying to sharpen the edge, if I'm moving it in this direction, that's honing. But if I pull it back towards me, like this, that's called stropping.
Stropping?
Yes, not to be confused with this, which is a leather strop, with the purpose of which is to maintain the edge of a knife. And as you might guess, it's only to be used with a stroke going away from you, as opposed to the way that you would say try to cut.
How do you spell that?
Strop, S-T-R-O-P.
Okay, that's what I thought. You were dropping a strop on me. Now, what are three tips of the trade, things that people need to know about knife sharpening?
Well, I would say that if you're really interested in it, anybody can do it. So
Mm.
if you think you can't sharpen knives, you can. So that's number one. You can do this if you want to. The second thing is it takes patience. Uh, it's a
Which
very
rule
precise.
that probably rules out a lot of people.
It's a precise art. You are using abrasives of various kinds, maybe stones. Sometimes people can even use sandpaper on plate glass, and you are redoing the geometry of a piece of steel. So that the geometry will vary depending on what you're trying to cut with the knife, what the purpose of the tool is. So you have to understand how the tool is meant to be used in order to properly sharpen it. And the third would be that if you get frustrated and you're not being able to get your knife sharp, you can always get in touch with somebody like myself, and we can either give you tips or we can sharpen it for you.
Well, I think probably another myth we could add is that you just sharpen it. But you just mentioned a number of things, like depending on what it's going to be used for and the kind of knife it is. And then you've got two different, no, you had three different surfaces. And then
Oh
you mentioned,
yeah,
so there's a whole lot more to it than just
yes.
you roll. I have a little roller thing that I do, and that's
Oh
probably,
yeah. So a myth that you might know. So this is called a steel, and it doesn't actually sharpen a knife. What it's meant for is for restoring. Because if you think about it, a knife is a wedge,
uh-huh.
and maybe it's a really dull kind of a wedge for chopping, or maybe it's a really fine wedge for slicing things. And the
Hmm.
very tip is going to be so skinny that it can actually roll to one side or the other with hard use. So particularly in the older days when knives were made out of high carbon steel, a steel like this would be used to actually straighten out the edge of the knife, and it would be used with a stropping motion, so the knife would be pulled along to try to straighten it out so that it could be last longer and get better cutting. Um, so there's
Who
all
knew?
kinds of equipment. I mean, I've got sitting in this bucket of water next to me, I have my primary tool for sharpening, which is a water stone. This is a Japanese water stone. There's also oil stones. Typically, when I sharpen a knife, if someone brings me a knife, a kitchen knife that's maybe had a lot of use and it's kind of dull, it's got some pits in it, I might even take it to something like a grinder to really quickly re-profile the knife so we take away all the pits, and then to get the initial bevel back on. But then I'll take it through at least 3, maybe 4 different water stones before I then go and strop it in order to get the most polished and refined edge that I can make for you. So it can be as simple as using that little diamond stone that I showed before. That, oh yeah, that's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
using this, or it can be as simple as 4 to 5 different steps to get you the most polished edge that you can get.
The thing I like about this program is when I think knife sharpening, then it's you just sharpen your knife. But then you talk to somebody that really has studied it, really knows what they're doing. There's a whole new world out there about knife sharpening. And I can see that, yes, you could do it for yourself, but no, don't do this. Don't try this at home. Go to the professional. And what do you love most, Daniel, to wrap this up? What do you love most about knife sharpening?
It's a transformative process. So someone will bring me, you know, maybe a box of 4 knives. I had someone bring me 4 knives last week that had been used just lovingly and were now almost useless in their kitchen. They're just frustrating, couldn't get it through. So I take those knives, and when I give them back to them today, uh, you could shave the hair off your arm. I was shaving tomatoes earlier just to see if I could do it to make sure I gotten it right. So now it's this completely different piece of steel, even though it's really the same thing that they're going to bring into their home and now have complete ease when they go to cut whatever they want. I love that. I love that a lot.
That is amazing. So now that we're totally convinced that we need to go to Daniel to get our knives sharpened, how should people get in touch with you?
The best way usually is to reach out to me either through text with my phone number, or I get a lot of work through Instagram. So if you can find me at Dangerspoon Forge, you can email me. My email has 4 O's in it because someone took Dangerspoon from when Gmail was handing out addresses. So if you want to email me, it's Dangerspoon with 4 O's, Dangerspoon.
Yeah.
But I like written communication the absolute best, as opposed to give me a phone call.
I can see why. If you forget what they said or you can't remember the agreed on time, you can go back and check your written information.
Yeah, I think paper trails or digital trails are better for everybody, just so we can know what's going on, where is it happening, and all that stuff.
So one last question that came to mind, what is the price? How do you gauge, is it the kind of knife or the process or how long it takes, or what's the range?
Yeah. So it does vary a little bit. It depends on what the knife is made out of, how badly it is damaged, if it's damaged, and uh, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's mostly that. It depends on what it's made of and how badly it's damaged. So the price range is going to be, I charge by the inch. So if you have a 9-inch chef knife, it's going to be either $3 to $5 per inch, depending on how damaged the knife is and how much work it's going to take to get it back to a razor sharp cutting edge.
And how often should one sharpen their knives?
Well, that varies a little bit depending on the steel as well. Some super steels that you get these days, if it's sharpened at the right angle and brought to a really high polish, it can last and be razor sharp for several months. I do encourage people to own strops. I'm working on making them so that I can sell them to people as well, because it's a really good edge maintenance tool. And you can, if you very simply learn how to strop, you can prolong the life of your knife and maybe go like half a year between sharpening. If
Wow.
you if you use it well, don't put it in the sink. Don't put your knives in the sink. It's the best way to dull them. Uh,
Should you run them through the dishwasher?
no, oh my. So
That's okay. That's a myth buster.
so steel is looks the same no matter what's going on. It just looks like a gray hunk of something. But depending on what temperature the steel is taken to, its molecular structure will change. Everyone's familiar with, a blacksmith beating on a red hot piece of steel, which we do at
Mm.
Dangerspoon Forge. We make knives. But if you put it in the dishwasher, your knife can get to temperatures hot enough that it will ruin the hardness of the knife. And that'll mean your edge is completely useless from that point on. So
Wow.
knives should be hand washed. If you are using your knife, you should use it on your cutting board and then either leave it on a board until you have the time, maybe put it on a counter someplace safe, or the best thing is, if you can, when you're fully done using your knife, go immediately to the sink, wash it off, and then place it wherever you store your knife.
Wow. I know that we probably could talk for another 30 minutes, but I would like to see you do a YouTube video about sharpening your knives and how to get your strop. And but we're out of time for today. And thank you, Daniel, so much for stopping by. I hope the people will get in touch with you and through text or email. But this has had a great point to it. And I can see you have a sharp life ahead. So bye, everybody. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks so much, Dia.
Mm-hmm.